Hey, all right, just looking at our support system to see if we're live, video, audio. I'm Jessica Alstrom, and this is your second Sunday held on your first Sunday because there's just a lot. There's a lot to cover, and there's a lot going on right now. So we have last couple of months done our second Sunday, or I've done on my second Sunday on the first Sunday. Uh, Looks like. Okay, awesome. All right, ready to go. So, very big month coming up. We're starting it kind of in this full moon of all this liquid cancer, all these emotions, feeling the feels, right? So, every month I get online and do kind of an energy broadcast. What can we expect when we're expecting? It feels like that. I know we are going through it. And each year is going to be highly different for everyone in their own universal experience, which means that because there's free will here, you literally can do it at your own pace. You can go as fast as you want to go, as slow as you want to go. You can take as many lifetimes as you want to get full circle with the school of consciousness that is what planet Earth is. It's a school where you come to remember yourself, put yourself back together. And again, I'm Jessica Alstrom, the creator of Quantum Fitness, the Quantum Method, and the Alchemist Apothecaries. And I have been doing this broadcast what feels like forever. It's a consistent for me. I think it's a consistent for my community, and it's a good way for people to kind of hear a different approach to maybe the energy collective. I've always focused more on real life, even though none of this is real. We are in a simulation, right? And when we say none of this is real, none of this is real, it does make us feel better for a second, gives us a drip of dopamine. But ultimately, the simulation that you are experiencing feels viscerally real to you. And that doesn't, we don't want to invalidate that. We want it to be real in the concept where we don't take ourselves so seriously and that we can at any moment wake up from what we are experiencing. We can choose a different virtual reality. We have a lot of choice in that thought process. But ultimately, when you are in your simulation, you are interacting with it as if everything sensory, viscerally is real. So we want to kind of hold those two perspectives, just like a parent and a child would. A parent understands that it's not really a big deal, but the child, it's everything. So when you're embarking into this new year, 2023, remember that ultimately our spiritually capability of avoiding and kind of bypassing the experience of everything that's happening because it's a dream, it kind of will downplay what your child or the part of you that is fully engrossed and owes those bills every month and has to be accountable to the simulation, right? Or at least they think they have to. So the 2023 mark is kind of a significant game changer. We are like 20,000 years into this $26,000 26,000 cycle process, and we're going through it. We are like, I feel we're already on the other side of what real true hell has been like on this planet. But I think the reason it feels more intense now is because we are more aware, because we have more access to information, because we are kind of expected to be more physically and emotionally, especially if you have decided on the path of knowing thy spirit. That's when it's almost like the permission of ignorance is bliss is no longer an option. And unfortunately, once you know, you can't unknow. So you're kind of stuck. And I really like this analogy. I've always loved the analogy of the bridge. But the analogy of where we are right now is because it has never been a more awareness that you can choose your own virtual reality here. That it feels collectively like we're split into these three different bridges. Okay, number one is just the big open bridge. You're like, wow, I'm on a bridge. See you later, haters, right? And you're like walking on this bridge. You're on this adventure. You're learning about yourself. You're opening up this idea of woke. You're feeling curious, expansive. You're remembering things. You're understanding your weirdness, your quirkiness, your intuition, You're getting to know yourself in different ways. That's the beginning of this bridge. And we never, ever want to downplay anyone who is even putting a tiptoe on that bridge, because it is the beginning for them. And what feels like the beginning for you feels, maybe, if you're hearing me and have been hearing me for years, you may feel like, oh gosh, that was so long ago when I was like so excited about my journey, and now look, right? And the next part of the bridge is literally kind of a rope bridge. Now, if you've ever been on a rope bridge, it there's security because you do have the sides, right? But the bottom is wobbly and it's kind of held together sketch, right? It's cringy. And when anyone moves on that bridge, it just ripples you out. Well, you want to look at this as that second phase of your enlightenment process, or your road back to home, or whatever you want to call this journey you're on. And when you're in the second part of the bridge, it becomes crucial that you are vibrating your own energy, right? It's like if anybody's getting too close and jumping, you're like, stop, I'm trying to walk across here. It's when other people's energies start to get kind of entangled, and you're more aware of it, right? Unless you're all going the same pace and you're all walking at the same speed, you're going to feel the ripple effect of their vibration. And I really feel like this is the second phase where you're getting triggered really easily, right? And every little movement is taking you out of your flow. It's taking you out of your rhythm. And so you're having to really get good boundaries, right? Where you're like, stay over there. This is where self-love really starts to matter on the journey. Before, it's kind of like, I love myself until a trigger, and then you fall out. The second part is like, I've got to love myself, which means I have to have excellent boundaries. I have to be aware of where I'm going. I have to be semi present, right? I have to have an intention here. I've got to have a voice. And so many of us have been on that second part, or that kind of rope bridge for a long time, because that one is tricky when you're trying to have relationships or business partners or kids or anything, because it's not even someone, it's a strong wind that can knock you off, right? And you feel like you're getting back on. And you can't go back to bridge one, that whole joyous experiences of being your awakening where you're bathed in love and light, right? Once you get on this kind of rope bridge, you realize that you have to understand the darkness within and understand the darkness within others in order to keep even the slightest bit of pace here. Okay. Now, there's a third bridge that I'm recognizing that many of us are on. And this is once you really understand what your femininity is, what your masculinity is, what your purpose is, you find yourself on a tightrope. Okay. And this tightrope is hell on earth. Now, obviously, I always feel like it's darkest before the dawn, right? And it's always at the end of the video game, it's always more intense, it's always more difficult. But what this bridge is going to require is, I think, everything you're probably going to experience on your level this year, if you can hear me or track. Okay. It's going to take amazing balance, right? And balance is both brains working together, left hemisphere, right hemisphere. This means cohesive. This means that you have come back together with yourself. You're not only identifying some of your darker parts and your lighter parts, but you're starting to work as a team. Now, notice that when you're on a tightrope, if you've ever been on one or at least had the simulation of one, that not only is it excellent boundaries that are required, and obviously space between you and someone else, because even the slightest bit of wind, but it's that idea of balance, right? It's like your purpose is balanced, your work life home is balanced, your finances are balanced, your body is balanced, right? Sometimes, right? But again, just like any video game, you can fall off and get right back on without having to go through the death experience again. But you get to kind of have a resurrection every time you go through a dark night, or end a breakup, or move, or change jobs, or go through your butterfly, or go biohack with me, and all of a sudden you feel new again. So you start that journey again. And not only balance and boundaries, obviously, and self love, but self unity. self-governorship. You got to make your own rules up there, right? You got to have your own definition of integrity and right and wrong when you're up there. And hopefully it is that my next step is what is right for me, whether it's wobbly or straight. Because if it's wobbly, it's going to teach me how to self-correct. And so when you're on the tightrope and you start to get wobbly, then what will happen is the other part of your dualistic nature will help you balance and compensate. And this is how the journey has to finish. It finishes on the tightrope. Bounds, boundaries, self-love, self-respect, self-unity, self-governorship, right? Self-sovereignhood, okay? And present, right? You can't run. This is where you have to slow down to speed up. This is how but waiting for the precise next wind gust is the perfect moment. It is waiting for the next intuition of where to place the foot. Never waiting, because when we're waiting for someone to come and do something for us. Not necessarily waiting on anything physical to determine our next move, but being so sovereign in our state of being that we feel the next movement. It's the inspired action within us. And when we put our foot down on that rope and we feel the steadiness, then we feel confident, right? And you'll feel this all metaphorically this year. Even if you are starting your journey and you are on the big open bridge that feels like no one else is on you except you, or maybe people from other states or things like that, but none of your family seems to be on it. Even you will experience some of these tightrope moments because you're in an acceleration of what is called 5D energy. 5D is all about choice simulation, which means you could jump timelines so quickly and move and shift into a different parallel reality version of yourself that you wouldn't even necessarily notice you were doing it if it was close enough to what you were experiencing before. So we're not in the age of like, let's quantum leap way over here. We are, if anything, quantum leaping our next best version of self, fully integrated. Doesn't sound sexy or exciting, and this is why people on the beginning of the bridge don't like to hear this kind of information, because they want to hear about their past lives. They want to hear about, reincarnations and is my twin flame, my lost love. It's so romantic when you begin this journey. And I think that's ultimately what keeps us on it, because it is a reconnection of our cosmic and reincarnated selves. And so I believe that there is a huge importance in spending time getting to know those fabric points of you and those fractals points. But what it does leadly is it takes you to what caused the big breakup. It brings you to the end game, which is having to come back together to yourself and having to do it in the scariest place that exists, which is the present moment. You hear everything, present moment, present moment. The reason why people are not in the present moment is because it is scary as hell, because you know that if you were in the present moment, your past is going to slap into you much quicker than if you're out running it, or if you're dopamining it, or if you're drugging it out, or if you're exercising it off, or if you're, rescuing someone in a relationship. When you are in the present moment fully, you are fully aware of all parts of you. And all parts of you are not super excited. Some parts of you are in terror. Some parts of you are lost in the past, replaying a death experience. Some parts of you are waiting in the future, anticipating future trouble. So when you get into the present moment, you feel all of that. And this is the number one reason why that people even say they are in the present moment refuse out of survival to stay far away from the present moment. Okay. Because in the present moment is where the triggers are going to come, when the wind gusts, right? The storms are there. The old emotions sitting in my organs that I haven't wanted to process, my nervous system is calm enough for it to start processing and detoxing. My nervous system is beginning to get regulated again, and I'm understanding my trauma and I'm showing up differently, but that doesn't mean I feel better. And this is one thing that came up in our non-duality classes. One of our students was like, I don't feel excited about this class or doing any of this. And I'm like, then you're in the right place. because the false sense of dopamine, right, of future anticipation of what you're gonna do you guys realize that even projecting what you're gonna do in the future will give you enough of a dopamine hit so that you never do it ever? Which means when clients are telling me about their future destinations, and I'm like, okay, what are we doing now? Well, you know, all of a sudden it's that security and consistency of what they're gonna do this year and accomplish. And I think if you look back over the years, that has been a really big false security for us, is projecting what we're gonna do, what we're gonna create, what we're gonna have, enough to get the hit off of the feels that we can get from our own simulated hormone factory here, and then never really do anything, right? And so where we are now is we're really in the tough love phase of our journey. It's where we have to prove it. Okay, if you were on the tightrope, you are being asked to prove your state of being. Now notice that I didn't say that you are pure of heart, that you are kind to every version of everything that walks the earth, that you don't have any triggers left, that you have $1 million billion sitting in your bank account. None of that is required for you to finish this last leg. Okay, this last leg is literally boot camp of me, myself, and I. It is, can we work together in a unified space where my feminine is not outrunning my masculine, and I'm not angry at my masculine, or disgusted or criticizing my feminine. I am not trying to kill my ego. I'm not suffocating my inner child with sweets. I'm not living in meditation 24 hours a day to feel the feels of higher self. But I am working as a coherent, cohesive team, which means all three of my brains have the same focus, have the same intention, and are walking at the same speed, which is so slow, although we're making progress, right? I will tell you, just since 2023 started, I've fallen off this rope bridge probably like 8,000 times. So, but I'm here. And it appears to be the same skins, right? I mean, I don't know technically, but it appears to be that I woke up in the same simulation, okay? And every single time I've been falling off, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so where was I not in alignment with me? So your 2023 year is all about this magnetic number 7. 7 is about your definition of spirituality. It is about your journey. It is about your sovereignhood. It is about your governingship. It is about your law. It is about your definition of abundance. It is about your art. It is about your music. It is about your body. And this is going to be very difficult for people who have dedicated their entire lives to being in other people's simulations. All right. Now, everything works perfectly together if you are on the right intention with yourself, which means all the good that's happening in your world is perfect for your rope journey. And all the bad that's happening and the good that's happening is all usable. Every single thing, just like your stress hormones are usable energy, guys. You can use your own body's stress to amplify your metabolism, to burn out cancer from your body. You are just looking at it through a spectrum of what's called belief. Okay, belief, aka becoming the lie. Once you have become the lie, you act as if, right? So part of our non-duality training this year in class is that we are in a simulation, which means we are acting out the simulation from whatever script that we may be consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously reading off of, and method acting, which means your behavior is the actor of you reading its own script, right? And with that being said, well, that sucks, but it's also amazing, non-duality, because I might have been reading off of a script that's 30, 40, 50 years old, but I also have the awareness now to change the script, right? And I have trauma that I can turn into potential. and I have pain that I can use as a messenger, and I have a mirror everywhere outside of me so that I can see if I'm getting hotter or colder to my own desires through demonstration. So, although the story of the simulation is 2 thumbs down, you also have the opportunity to make it 2 thumbs up, right? Same scenario. Every single thing that you are dealing with that is not dealing with you, abandonment, rejection, denial, disassociation, poverty, lack, illness, it's all usable. And literally, you will not get to the next step of your bridge until you start using what is in your simulation as tools. Okay? So, this is an actor, right? What movie, like I said in last second Sunday, if you guys were if your life was a movie, would anyone pay to watch the last 3 years of it? Would you be able to sit and watch your own movie? Well, here you are in brand new, fresh energy, right? Not resolutions, but intentions. And so it's all about, who do I choose to be in this situation? Who do I choose to be in this scenario? Who do I choose to be in this conflict? Who do I choose to be in this problem? Who do I choose to be, right? Now, of course, when you're not in full alignment of the higher self, ego will feel like it's choosing more. And I will promise you, if you feeling like ego is choosing your emotion instead of using it to take a pause and redefine the characters in your movie and redefine your plot here, then you're probably on that second bridge, right? You're on that rope bridge, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. And you're like, oh, great, now she's telling me there's the third bridge. Well, again, by the time you get to the third bridge, if you're not there, you will be someone who's ready, because it is literally like this last trimester of pregnancy, where you're terrified to give birth, but you are so ready to be done that you're willing to go through this experience. I promise you, if you are not here and you get here, you'll feel ready, because there isn't anything else. You can never go back to and be motivated by the same things that were motivating you. Have you guys noticed that the terror and the pride of success or not being successful is no longer a motivation? Right? Like a couple of years ago, it was like, well, if I don't have 10 letters after my name, I'm worthless. And now it's like, I want peace to reframe my purpose here. I want to feel peace instead of have all this school debt here, right? I just want to have people around me that I love. So as you finish up this concept here, what you're realizing is less is more. And you never needed anything or do anything to really become worthy. What you needed to do to feel worthy was to have all access parts of yourself, right? And when you have the integrated ego, which its job changed from system planner of like running your programs and making sure that you relive all of the pain of the past and keeping you focused on your failures and your weaknesses and your lack issues. When your ego integrates into managing the potential of what higher self is capable of, that's when the journey changes. All right. And the journey is going to change majorly for you if you are working on getting yourself integrated, which means that you are able to be in your body. And when you're in your body, you can hear it through pressurization and pokes and tingles. And it requires a bit of presence for you to feel these gentle, gentle, gentle waves of communication that your body is showing you. And that's going to be coming from your gut brain. Your gut brain is going to be where the house of your intuition is and has always been, but you're going to be working with your gut way more than you're going to be working with this nuisance. Okay? You're going to be working with 70% of your intuition and pretty much most of your serotonin, that delicious hormone that makes you feel safe. Okay? That is going to be requiring presence, which means that you're going to be not only in the house, but listening. So have you ever been in your house at night and, you know, you're doing your thing and then all of a sudden you start to settle in and your muscles start to get tired and you start to get a little sleepy, and that little inner child fear of, I'm alone in the house and it's dark down there. All of a sudden, don't you get really still, right? And you get really still and you're listening. Am I the only one here? Right? Is there somebody in my house? All of a sudden, You're listening with the intent of hearing the slightest crick, the slightest little feeling from downstairs. Okay. So that's what it's like when you come back into your body, right? And you deal with the hauntings of your own abandonment. When you deal with the rejection, right? You will have to go through that. And you won't always have to go through that through illness. Sometimes your loving partner will reject you or abandon you to show you where you have done that yourself. And you really do have to go through this like haunted experience through your own graveyard when you come back home from a body that you have been literally jumping out of the whole time you've been here, if you are the slightest bit sensitive or empathic. All right. Coming back to the body is hell enough. Once you come back to the body, it's like, let me see how this thing actually works when I'm not 6 feet ahead. Okay. Wow. It is much different in here. And in that space, you start to realize that it's never been safe for you to be truly feminine. Or you're a masculine energy who's not allowed to build, provide, or protect anything because you don't even have to open the door for a woman anymore because the door's open. Right? And you're not allowed to build anything because you can't own anything. And if you own anything, you have to work so hard to keep it that you don't even get to be creative with it. So you're in a simulation where, on purpose, the feminine energy has been forced into unsafety that she has to shapeshift into the masculine. All right? And once a feminine becomes masculine, not by looks, not by dress, not by voice, but by the energy that she carries around her, will determine not only the mate that she can create, but the abundance sustainably, consistently, and the space that she will be allowed to create will always be required a lot of work for her. Okay? And the masculine's role in this simulation has been taken away from his truth and denied his intuitive abilities to create and provide and protect. Okay? Everything is done for him. And what it leaves our masculine is feeling docile and emasculated. Now, masculinity is the house of let's build reality. And if I can't build a reality in this body and I'm a creator by nature, what is the opposition of that? Destructive. When I cannot use my sacral energy to build an empire for my lineage or build a compound or a community for my neighborhood, well, my sacral energy is going to get channeled through porn, through lots of women, through video games, through smoking weed all day, through whatever. Okay. And it isn't disrespecting our masculine or our feminine. It's just the dynamic has been lured away from the intuitive parts of itself and given what it felt like was the easy way out. It's like, okay, he's not around to do it for me. I'll do it myself. Okay. I can do it better than you anyways, right? And I can do it raising 4 kids and running 3 companies, right? That is literally how my old character was playing herself out. And because I am feminine on the outside and was acting as this unsafe feminine, I was projecting a masculine energy, which was bringing me lots of emasculated men. And I don't mean partners, but in general, like even my son, I was helping him become emasculated by over nurturing him, because when a feminine cannot be a masculine's true partner, she will become his mother, his life coach, or his roommate. That is what our relationships have come to be in this simulation that is designed to basically create a docility against each other and opposing war. Because if I don't feel a man as being a man, right? And the masculine feels that I am bulldozing them and doing everything or going out and living my best life, and it feels that that isn't the role that they would like to see a woman play, then they can turn us on to against each other, right? And so then if the mother is off working, building an empire, okay, and the father is at home or working on what he's allowed to create, which is a job or a small business that's not empowered by his community or his government, And so he's not very motivated because he doesn't have a lot of control in that. Who's raising the kids? Well, guess what? Hey, social media, we are raising the kids. And so then through the path of least resistance, we get to brainwash this entire new society in a collective that the feminine is becoming the man and the masculine is becoming the docile stay-at-home mother, and the children are running amok, and they're over nurtured because of with stuff, and because the mom and dad are emotionally disconnected from themselves. And this is like the society that we are living on, regardless of what rope you're walking on here. If you're in society. Now, if you're on a rock somewhere in Tibet, you're probably not hearing me, maybe telepathically, but you're like, wow, it sucks for you down there, right? So if you are down here amongst us, okay, ground dwellers, then we are looking at this dynamic and going, I don't want to be this strong, right? And I want to be in a body that I am allowed to celebrate. I am wanting to be a dynamic that is something I chose, right? And feminine energy is not good or bad. It's just energy. You piss it off, you're going to get one version of it. You love it, you're going to get another version of it, right? And so this feminine energy that literally is what creates everything to come alive here. And the masculine is building the stuff that we use to act out the aliveness, right? When either one of us are allowed to do our job that we signed up for through our first human purpose, right? Then what happens is we'll turn on each other and we'll suffer in relationships, because relationships is how we know ourselves. And if I say, well, I'm just not safe in a relationship, or, I'm with a barbaric old school masculine where my femininity is criticized, or am I having to be too masculine because my partner is emasculated, then I might spend 20 years just focusing on this mess. I might not even focus on where I'm going, or even if I'm getting ahead anywhere. I might not even realize that 10 years have passed and that all I've been doing is putting out relationship fires, or moving, or changing jobs, or going on another diet, or seeing a different psychic or a different professional while I'm trying to study all my own stuff here. And really, when they say, you're going to be able to see through the veil, the final indoctrination for you to come home fully to yourself and start building this new universe is through example, which means that your phase on this tightrope is to show others the way, which means you can't get off the rope and help someone across, which means that you can't stop your journey and go teach it how. The best way for us to teach at this point is through demonstration, right? The Christed consciousness is that, like, act like the Christ, not read his books, okay? It was, I'm a duck, walk like a duck. Let me show you how, right? So it is no longer the time where you can preach and teach, because you will feel that fraud complex coming up if you are a healer who's on antibiotics. You will feel that. And there's no judgment in it. It's just awareness, right? It is the time for us to take our own advice, walk our own line, right? Keep our own counsel. And everything that will happen this year in 2023 will be along this line. You fall off, you're going to get put right back on, right? If you are super codependent by nature, well, you're going to have some really exciting lessons this year, because you are everything that you need. You are the abundance, you are the time, you are the support system, you are the relationships you desire, all in one house, right? You came fully equipped. And when you start streaming from your own broad, your own stream of Wi-Fi, that is when the masculine and feminine within you becomes aligned, the pineal gland energy will start to broadband, right? It's a Wi-Fi signal that works with the conduit of the center of Mother Earth all the way to the cosmos, and you are online, all right? Until you are online, you are hotspotting. You are borrowing someone else's Wi-Fi. You are borrowing something else's Wi-Fi, which means that when you are using Wi-Fi, you're channeling. All right? You are channeling. So if you're spending 4 hours on social media, you are channeling the collective. If you are giving more energy to your partner than you are yourself, you are channeling his vibration, and you'll even get his tummy trouble. Okay? If you are channeling your own fear of disconnection, you're going to get more of that fear. So the best solution here is to get really in this body and get quiet and get still enough for your next move to be whispered, not yelled, I'm so excited, but whispered. A little to the left, a little to the right. Keep moving forward. Take a pause. Take a breath. Remember who you are. Your entire year is going to feel like this. And when you just accept it, you realize that it's just like with any sort of conditioning. It sucks while you're doing it, and it is going to be so worth it on the other side that you will be so glad that you never built your heaven on earth without yourself. That the people you thought that had to be there on the other side of you that are not coming now, you realize that when you become one with yourself, a version of them will be there. One of the movies I recommend for my class to watch is that movie Free Guy. And there is a scene where he has to leave his simulation to go create this or go be a part of this new simulation that's like a choose your own adventure simulation. And there's a crossroads moment where he's trying to outrun the bridge that's falling apart underneath his self, which is what's happening to 3D right now. And he has to say goodbye to his friend that says, I'm too scared to go with you. And he has to realize that he chooses himself and that he has enough love for his friend to be able to hold space for his friend while he starts his new life. But then once he gets over there, he realizes that it was just a test and his buddy's actually a version of him is over there. And this is what will happen for you, because this is the question I get asked more and more. What if my family can come to me? So when I said the name of this second Sunday was Love Isn't Enough, the whole point of that was that the definition of third dimensional love, right, it's very, very, very fascinating. Matter of fact, I have to read it to you because it's so fascinating. Let me see where it is. Okay, that's not the right one. Give me a second here. Okay, definition of love: a willingness to prioritize another's well-being or happiness above your own. That is the third dimensional vibration of the word love. And that is why it is your greatest jail cell. This is what will never start your business. This is why you will never choose yourself. This is why you have been indoctrinated down to a pressurized cellular imprint that if you choose you, then you should be ashamed and feel guilty. And those two vibrations, right? Shame is I am bad, and guilt is I did something bad, will halt you on your journey. It'll knock you right off that bridge, whichever one you're on. You're going to have to get back on. It's like Jumanji. You die, you come right back. Okay? It's like it's happening. And so when you use this definition, I love you, what it means is that I am willing to give up my own happiness and my joy for you. Okay. And unfortunately, in the third dimension, because what we're all trying to do here is get connected back to source, is when someone else loves you more than they love themselves, not only do they hold you hostage, okay, and you feel responsible, but you also are taking their hotspot instead of reconnecting your own. So this is why in non-duality, okay, guys, when you get abandoned and rejected, it's actually 10 steps forward. Because when you get rejected and abandoned here, sometimes they say, oh no, rejection is like, it's all about protection. Bullshit. Rejection is redirection. Right back to you. Because ain't nobody gonna love you more than you when someone just hurts you. Okay. So when you are on this rope or the bridge, rejection and abandonment is going to feel like it's just coming out of the sky and just punching you in the face. If you have a story of rejecting and abandoning yourself in the past. Okay? Because it's all about getting aligned. And so you'll go through the storm of rejection, you'll go through the storm of abandonment, and that's going to be what's going to create your hella good boundaries because there ain't nothing going to happen to me again. And if I don't abandon myself for you, now I'm not following the law and I'm not following the rules of 3D. So am I bad, right? No, this is why I started off with time to make your own rules. Because let me read you the definition of what I replaced the word love with this year. And it is flow. Okay. Now I flow my kids, right? I flow my loved ones because it basically means move along in a steady and continuous current or stream. It go from one place to another steadily, easily, typically in large numbers, right? So the stream of you, we're all flowing in. The action or fact of moving along in a steady, continuous stream. Now, isn't this what you want for your loved ones? Is for them to move ahead, for them to move along, for them to be free. So 5D love is about freedom, right? It is about allowing other people to be on whatever bridge they want on. And if they're not on the bridge yet, allow them to be there. Okay. And this idea of the willingness to give up a part of yourself, whether it's a tiny hobby that you give up for someone or give up some of your time that you should have been using for something else on your own journey, those things start to stack up and they turn into what's called resentment. And once you have a resentment for someone, you might as well be glued to them because of something called law of resistance. And whatever you resist, you get. So now while you're attached to someone, they are abandoning you and rejecting you while being attached. The ultimate hell. Okay. So if you've experienced this, where no one's leaving, but you're always feeling abandoned and rejected inside the relationship, then you might want to go inside because whenever I go without, I go within. Okay. Because this is just a mirror. And I know by nature, just having the feminine body, that I am abundance, right? Okay, so if I am the abundance and I'm going without, then that means that my stream is not flowing, which means I must be hotspotting off of somebody else's vibe, someone else's energy, someone else's direction, someone else's choice, someone else's law. Okay, and so it's all about reclaiming thyself. And one of the number one things that I recommend for both masculine and feminine this year is to get right with your masculine energy, regardless of the laws, and to get into that femininity, regardless of the judgment and criticism. Because until you return to the nature that you set up for yourself, doesn't matter if you came in a male's body, but you're really effeminate. I'm not talking about what your body looks like. I'm talking about who you are and why you came that makes you unique, your spark, right? You're going to have, until you're completely non-dualistic, you're going to have a little essence of a masculine or feminine. And it's usually been the one that's been judged, criticized, attacked, and abandoned. Which means the reason why we shut our femininity down is because in our truest nature, we're wild. And that is dangerous. And masculine in their truest nature are lawless, except within. That's dangerous. So if we make a bunch of kids who don't have a gender identification and literally don't have a desire to do anything, then we're creating a whole new generation of sheeple that are even easier to program than before. So depending on what bridge you are on, and depending on what your definition of love to your definition will determine the size of your jail cell. How much freedom you're allowed to have and how much freedom other people around you are allowed to have. You have to figure out what your definition of love has meant, because I just read what 3D's version is, but what your version is, and then making it a Rubik's Cube into the right shape to find your definition, which means what has felt the best to me in my journey of getting back to myself has been flow. Because when I allow other people to flow, I'm loving them unconditionally. Whether they're flowing into the wall, crash, to wake up, beautiful, right? And then my job as a parent and a partner and a teacher and a business owner and a woman is to shut my mouth more often and act as an example. And this is why this is my last year of teaching publicly. I probably will do little energy bursts and write books and stuff like that. But I would rather demonstrate through physical action of what this ascension process actually is than get online once a month and teach about it when you can't really see if there's a big mess behind me or not. You see, which actually it's clean today. Whew. But could be, right? I could be hiding that mess. And if that is you who has a big platform or a community that is hiding a mess, unfortunately, that's going to get shown to light this year. And you're going to get back to yourself. But I will tell you that walking the tightrope, you are the only one you want to go with here. You don't want anyone else's control issues, anybody else's, it's got to go this way. Like, this is where you come into your own intuition, your own navigation, your own self-respect, your own confidence, your own posture, your own state of being, your own abundance, your own freedom. And you're defining it as what is the most loving thing that you could do that you would lovingly give to others, which means you're not trying to take yourself away from your loved ones or take anybody away from their self. You want to reclaim your freedom and abundance so you can act as an example, which is the most loving way that we could hack the matrix. And you will not be able to act out your truth if you aren't in your body. And if your body is loaded down with tons of trauma and tons of stories, and you're still reading off mom and dad's script, then you're probably not hearing half of what I've said. You've fallen asleep 3 times, or my voice feels like this, which is fine. And if you are reading off of that story, or you've just finished reading that story and you're ready to change, you have to understand that before you can get on that last bridge, you have to decompress the body, right? The emotional trauma has to come out. Perfect Cancer full moon here is purge the emotion out, right? We cannot move on a tightrope as a unified being in harmony with me, myself, and I if I have a ton of anger sitting in my liver right now. All right. So this is why I've been biohacking for 2 years, to help me balance my masculine feminine, help me get rid of my childhood trauma, help me deal with the rejection, abandonment, help me love myself even when I'm ugly, right? So all of these things is what you're working towards. And what's at the end of the tightrope? Well, I can only imagine that it really is choose your own virtual reality, because I have this year and last started to create my own universe, my own rules, my own algorithms, my own spaces, my own types of medicine, my own curriculum, my own state of being, my own character, and nobody's really telling me not to. So that's different, right? And I also am starting to meet people who are also getting on the other side of that, who are living pretty sovereign, very kind, loving, generous realities where love is about flow. So I invite you to first and foremost just take a recognition of where you are. Acceptance is a true definition of love, okay? And also realize the size of your jail cell, right? Love. And then take stock in really what you want this year to look like for you, okay? Because you're going to go through pressurization and self-discovery. You're coming back to yourself regardless of what bridge you take that on, okay? What highway, what speed. You got to slow down to speed up. We know that, all right? Because when you slow down, you hear thyself. When you're rushing ahead, you're actually trying to outrush some haunting that you don't want to hear. And at some point, if you don't hear it in your own body, you'll hear it in your new partner. So we can't outrun ourselves. Try it. Trust me, I've tried. I think biohackers are professional failures, Because what we've done is we've failed every single way, but never given up. And we stay consistent in our failures. And so eventually we start to go, well, I'm going to take this path of least resistance here and learn from all of the pain that is reminded in my body of putting myself out there and doing it the wrong way. And all of a sudden we create these simple solutions. So there are biohackers out there that are showing you how to walk the plank or the rope with style, dignity, class, grace, because once you let go, surrender, 7-step of manifestation, you realize that you had to surrender everything, all your definitions of love even, to get to the real world that you've always been set to create here. In hell, with what you have, with what you know, with who you are, and realizing it's the best place in the world to be. Because ultimately, if you had the skin you wanted and the house you wanted and the money you wanted, you would never, ever want to trade places with anyone else. And you also wouldn't give a crap what was happening on TikTok or 5-6 hours of social media that is designed to indoctrinate you away from your dreams because you see someone else doing it better, faster. Well, what's the point of me doing it? And I can never do it like that. So now that I've seen it the real way, I don't want to do it at all. So if you want to get your dreams sucked out of you, spend hours on social media. Now, if occasionally you need a piece of inspiration, right, then 15, 20 minutes here to just get some highlights, maybe to have a giggle, maybe to see someone, a different strategy of organizing something. It's great. But when you are spending hours of your own movie time that the universe is watching, you giving yourself away constantly, what do you think you're going to get back in 5D? Someone taking you away, because you're going to get the opposition of duality. So I have lots of stuff coming up this year. It's kind of my big, no, I wouldn't say goodbye because I'm really stepping into physical reality even more this next year. But we're going to have 2 retreats. We're going to have one reclaiming the divine feminine in Iceland, of course, in the Blue Lagoon, which is the womb of Mother Earth. Hello. I mean, like the actual amniotic fluid. If you've never been, you have to go. And we're going to be doing a lot of feminine reclaiming there. Okay. Because this needs to be done. We got to get back to our safe femininity where it's safe to be wild and free. All right. And then I have a character building virtual reality retreat that is coming up in Kansas City, and that will be the end of June. This stuff will all be posted on my website, but we still have room in our non-duality class. If you're looking for a way to transition your ropes here and make a easy, fun, light way to biohack the rest of this process, that would be your non-duality class. I also have 15 weeks of Reclaiming the Feminine workshop coming up. And that's going to be very intense. There's 15 steps to basically going into the deep deprogramming. Ladies, if you have chosen a feminine body this lifetime, you are sitting in a world of repression. Every cell, every genetic has been repressed. So as you reclaim your femininity, you've got to go through that fire with her. And basically, your gift is to be able to produce and have a purpose filled with all of your ancestry's unfinished business. And that gives me butterflies to think that I could finish what my grandmother started. You know, when I was working to channel the apothecary, which is divine feminine, I had to go deep into my collective ancestral, and I saw so much magic that I'm going to be channeling through the apothecaries. But I also had to go through all the pain of what they've been killed for and what they've been indoctrinated over and enslaved for thousands of years. So I got to go through that journey. It was not pretty. But on the other side of that is now being able to walk with the ancestors and finish what divine feminine started here. And that will also help and assist masculine in us not bulldozing over their need for appreciation and need for them to be valued on this planet. So lots going on this year. Anything that kind of piques your interest, that's you're wanting to jump on, just go to my website. If the retreats aren't there yet, they will be soon. And we have a new quantum fitness website coming up and a new apothecary website coming up as we are almost in completion. And obviously, if you guys are part of the community and you're interested in coming to the grand opening of any of those, you know, we will be sending out lots of information on all of it. But I highly recommend the non-duality class because it's going to get you, help you get back to you as fast as you can, using every ounce of crap you're sitting in right now as your fuel. And that would be the place I would go to if you're kind of on the fence, or you're like, I just want to get through this. So it's a biohacking program in a platform of virtual that will help you guys get there, because I know it's not been fun. Now some of it is going to be the most amazing experience, because it always is when you are loving yourself. It's always better. So we're wherever you guys are. If you've already finished this journey, please set up camp for us. We're on our way. And for those of you who are just starting, like, what is this crazy woman talking about, right? We'll see you in a few years, right? Okay, so this is my message for January 2023, Magnetic 7, and I will see you guys on the flip side.